Alright, today we're looking at section 8.6. It's all about the area of a trapezoid, so our objective is to find the area of trapezoids. Here is the formula that you need with a diagram that shows you exactly what each segment or letter represents. This formula is the trickiest one we've looked at. A couple of things to pay attention to while you're writing it are the parentheses, because you have to add the bases first. So B1 and B2 just stands for the different bases. Remember, the bases of a trapezoid are the sides that are parallel to one another. So here's base 1 and base 2. They're interchangeable. It doesn't matter which one you call 1 and which one you call 2. But you end up adding those together first. Then you multiply by the height and also by 1/2. So very similar to the triangles and the rhombuses. You can do the half at the beginning, you can do the half at the end, it doesn't really matter as long as you're taking care of it at some point. If you have one of my calculators, the TI-30, it will do the order of operations for you as long as you type in the parentheses correctly. So if you want to just type it in and let the calculator do the order of operations, that is fine. Or you can go through and do the addition first and then the two multiplications. Any questions? Alright, here are our first three examples. They're kind of difficult to draw, so if you want to just pick one, that's fine. If you can't really see the numbers on the inside, let me see if white shows up a little better. This is a 10.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that helps. Alright, this is a 7. And then the last one, you should be good. So again, draw one complete figure, but do the work for all of them. How to type it in the calculator, how to follow the order of operations is the hardest thing, I think, when it comes to trapezoids. Okay. Remember that the bases are the sides that are parallel. So this is a base. And this is a base. So I'm going to do area equals 1/2 the height, which is the 10, times those bases when you add them together. So again, you can go from there, type the whole thing in the calculator, or you can go step by step, do the addition first. So we'll have 1/2 times 10, and then that would be 27. So we can do 1/2 times 10, which is 5, and then times the 27, which is 135. Still talking about area, so go ahead and square those units in your answer. Alright, so same thing on this next one. We will do area equals 1/2. What's the height? This one's kind of flipped up on its side. Yeah, 7 is the height. And then in parentheses, we have the 6 and the 10. So again, if you're using the calculator, you can just type it right in. If not, you have to do that addition first. That gives us 16. And then you can just multiply. That gives us 56. Good. Inches. Alright, same thing on that last one. 8 is the height, so we have 1/2 times 8, and then in parentheses 11 and 17. If you want to do 17 plus 11, 11 plus 17, it's the same thing. So that's going to be area equals 1/2 times 8 times 28. So that's like 4 times 28. After you do the half. Are you getting 112?
Yeah.
Very good. Raise your hands if you have any questions. So if you missed it because of the little hand on the bottom, it's 112 square yards. So now we're given the area. So we have the area is 18, and we're missing the height. So it's the same formula, but instead of A equals, I'm going to put 18 equals. We have 1/2 the height times those bases when you add them together. Because we're looking for the h. That's why it's h. But like on this one, instead of h, we'd write 12. So it just depends what you're given. Go ahead and simplify anything that you can over here. So we'll end up with 1/2 times h times 12, because 7 plus 5 is 12. I'm going to start writing over here because it's kind of hard to see. So on the bottom right now I have 18 equals 1/2 times h times 12. You can do the 1/2 times 12. 1/2 of 12, or 12 divided by 2, is 6. And then you can divide both sides by that 6 to find h. So again, these are a little bit harder than we used to, a few extra steps, but definitely still doable. Check out the next one though. That one's going to give us a little more trouble, because we have 342 equals 1/2 times 12, and then in parentheses the B1 stays B1, and then we have plus 31. Everybody with me on example 5? Example 5, the math gets pretty hairy here in a second. This means difficult. A little difficult here in a second.
Why did you use it?
Because that's a phrase
Yeah,
No, phrase not.
that people used to use back in the day.
back in the day. All right.
Situation
So-
very handy. Like,
Settle down.
hey, bro, wait.
So the next step on this one, you can simplify what's in the front of the parentheses. What is 1/2 of 12? 6. So I have 6, and then I still have a variable in parentheses. Do you guys remember how to get rid of parentheses?
Subtract 6.
Not quite. There's 2 ways to do this actually.
6b.
Yeah, what I usually do is just distribute to get rid of those parentheses first. So I still have the 342 equals, and then it'll be 6 times B1, and then we need to do 31 times 6 as well. We're just distributing the 6 to get rid of those parentheses. That's 186. That's 6B. If you want to lose the 1, since we're only talking about that 1B at the moment, you can. Let's separate our workspace. So any questions on how I got to where I am now? I just recognized that I had terms that were not alike. I had a B and a number. You can't add those, but you can get through those parentheses by distributing the 6. Some teachers teach you to divide both sides by 6. If that's something you're used to in the past, go for it, but this is the way I usually do it. Yeah.
First would be easier, but
Yeah, so either way, I mean, if you're a divide first, if you're a distribute, that's up to you. But the way we're doing it, we have to subtract that 186. So we end up with 156 equals 6 times that B, and then divide by the 6.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is a little
it's just a little more work.
more than
A lot
you're
of nothing
used
you
to.
guys
A
haven't
lot of
done.
steps.
Right,
Just have to be careful not to trip yourself up.
right. Any questions?
Yeah.
All right, so check out these directions. It says to find the height of the trapezoid using the Pythagorean theorem. So the height, remember, always forms a right angle. So if you focus in over here, we have a right triangle. We learned about right triangles a few chapters ago. The Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We are going to use that to find h. And then once we find h, we're going to find the area. So it's like a previous triangle problem first, and then we're going to use what we learned today to find the area. All right, remember when we're using the Pythagorean theorem, A and B are the legs of the right triangle. So for example, in this one, I'm going to make 9A. I'm going to make H the B. And then 15 is my hypotenuse, so that's the C. So just plug everything into the Pythagorean theorem. If you've forgotten the Pythagorean theorem, you should write this somewhere in your notes. This is the Pythagorean theorem. Alright, go ahead and square the 9, you get 81. Square the 15, you get 225. We got to solve for the h. So I'm going to subtract 81 from both sides. This is working out nicely because I'm getting a perfect square. So when I take the square root of both sides, I'm getting that h equals 12. That is not my final answer. That is just going to help me find the area. Because now I can use the area formula and I know what h is. So I'm going to pause here. If you feel confident plugging the numbers in, go for it. If you want to wait for me, I'll give you about 30 seconds to catch up in silence. Alright, so I'm going to start plugging numbers in. I have the area equals 1/2. What's my h? I just found it. 12, so put a 12 in here. Now, there's one extra step that's a little bit tricky. Because what is this entire base? It's really 9 and 22. So we have to add those together. This segment is 9.
21.
This segment is 22. To get the whole thing, you have to add them.
That's 200.
And then base 2 is just the other base. Now you can go ahead and either type it all into the calculator or go through step by step. I have 1/2 times 12. 31 plus, that's 51. Yeah, 6 times 51 is what you're going to end up doing. So 306 is the area. That's our final answer. So again, you use the Pythagorean theorem. That's what we know already about right triangles. The height always will form a right triangle. So you find the height of this right triangle using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Then you plug that new number in for your h. Find one of your bases by adding the two smaller segments that make up that base together. And then you just use today's formula. Raise your hand if you have any questions.